then this particular woman who was known as the most dangerous woman in South Australia because of her decisions, and she was put into solitary confinement for 2 weeks.
Whoa.
And the South Australian government, after 18 minutes, they harassed her, they stalked her, they did terrible things to her car. I mean, it was quite horrific. The South Australian police force, I should say, finally admitted that she was actually put into jail illegally, unconstitutionally. But because she represented herself, because no lawyer would take her on, and then she was told that the lawyers will not allow her to win, she represented herself and she got $525.
Hello, it's Mark Attwood at the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures of the Cosmic Suit. How are you doing? No, I didn't freeze frame. I just did that for a joke. It's just my sense of humor. How are you? You well? You enjoying yourself? Enjoying the apocalypse? It's fun, isn't it? Let's talk about energy for a minute. So, I'm full of beans generally, and I'm an optimist, as you know, apocalyptimist. In fact, I just designed a new. I was up late last night designing a new T-shirt. Let me pull that up. And while you're waiting for me to pull it up, let me just say, if you're watching this on YouTube and you think, oh, Mark doesn't always do YouTube videos, that's because I can't, because they keep stopping me. I always forget to turn WhatsApp off. What are you doing on WhatsApp? They're spying on you. I know. They got you bagged and tagged, whatever you do, so don't worry about it. Yeah, what was I saying? So yeah, anyway, here's the T-shirt first. Let's have a look at this. I quite like this. And I'm making this because of the event that I'm doing in about 5 or 6 weeks. So I thought I'd make a T-shirt with Apocalyptimist on it. Do you like it? It's like an eye test. Yeah, I'm very pleased with it. People shouting, you can't design. I know. But there you go. Energy wise, woo, it's bonkers. I mean, I did a video about the Lionsgate the other day, and people were like, "Yeah, Lionsgate's a load of shit. Look at this person on YouTube." I'm like, well, you know, I felt it. Gary felt it. My people close to me felt it. It was extremely powerful. And waves of energy, and a lot of people that I'm meeting at the moment are having the same symptoms as me, which is like, for example, yesterday I had a very productive morning, great afternoon, very chipper, and suddenly 3 o'clock I was like, ugh. And I just had to cancel everything, put myself to bed, got up 4 hours later going, whoa. And then when I went to bed in the evening, which was quite late last night, I couldn't sleep. And it wasn't because I'd slept, because the night before I'd slept like a log. In fact, I've slept like a log for the last 4 or 5 months, very soundly, 10 hours a night. It's extraordinary. Is it ascension? Well, very possibly, very probably. Is it energetic changes? Definitely. Is it stress? Well, maybe. Stress-wise, my blood pressure was very high a few months ago. And in fact, I was pretty ill. So I embarked upon a lot of things, actually, not all of which I can talk about. But part of what I embarked upon was, right, let's really start taking care of yourself, Mark, because you ain't going to survive this if you don't. And so I did. And I'm 10 kilograms lighter, and I'm very happy, and everything's going extremely well. And there's a lot to that. And I actually started to make a record. I've actually recorded most of it, which I've not released yet, but I will release that fairly soon. I've got a lot of things to do at the moment. We just finished a retreat at live5dhealth.com, if you've not heard of it. That's our healing center in the west of Ireland. And we've just done our second retreat. We've got another couple coming up. And we're learning, we're learning about how powerful it is. We're also finding little nooks and crannies to fix. Nooks and crannies, is that a word? Is that a term? That's one of those terms. I've never actually looked it up. I'm guessing it just means little things that you've got to tweak. I might be wrong. But anyway, it's pretty exciting what's going on. I did a video yesterday about the federalization of Washington, and I read this morning actually that some of the Google Maps, for example, took off the DC from Washington a while ago quietly. What does that tell you? Well, it tells you very clearly, actually, that and what I talked about in the video was that the three legs of the stool have been, in my opinion, have been dismantled. The three legs of the stool are Washington, DC, the Vatican, and the City of London. And the City of London is the control center. That's a separate country. Somebody said on Twitter yesterday, it's not a separate country, it's in London. And the clue's in the name, City of London. I'm like, oh, shut up. I even put a diagram explaining it, and they do this. It's just part of the job. The Vatican, I'm pretty sure the Vatican already got capitulated quite a long time ago, actually. And Washington, DC, three separate countries within countries. And that's part of the control structure. And the video that I put out, something like 80,000 views on Twitter, which is nuts. But, you know, a lot of people are going, yeah, this sounds good. This sounds right. But it's also bringing in the digital ID, and he's pro and he's a rapist and he's this, that, and the other. You know, this is part of the storm. The storm is us. We are, you know, it's the internal stuff, the energies, the coping with these things is critical, because we, as awake people, have to survive this process that we're going through. There's also an interesting interview that I just shared on Telegram with a guy in Australia, George. I can never say his surname, Casavosilis or something like that. Let me see if I've got it here. I always get sorry about this, George, if you watch this. I have been aware of you for quite a long time. Cavasilas. I do apologize. I think he's a Greek Australian, and he's done a lot of good work over the years. But he's talking to Michael Sala, who's the guy that I've got his books here somewhere, talking about the secret space program and the 3i Atlas thing in space that's coming towards our solar system. He's saying it's the lead ship in a small fleet led by the US Navy Jedi admirals. I don't know why. I haven't watched the whole interview. I don't know why he's using the word Jedi, but I want to look into that, because I've long thought that Star Wars, the original 3, or original 1 especially, is based upon truth. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, George. Really? Twin suns. Interesting, isn't it? But the Jedi powers are really the powers that we have, dormant in our DNA. And he's saying that this fleet who's taken over the disclosure process on Earth, according to George, an extraterrestrial, I can't speak. More coffee, Mark. That's better. And don't drink coffee, it's bad for you. Shut up. Extraterrestrial contactee and secret space program insider. He says that the admirals are asserting their authority over the Earth Alliance and Galactic Federation of Worlds in taking charge of the disclosure process, which will begin with astronomers and scientists overwhelmingly accepting the artificial nature of 3i Atlas. By 2027, 3i Atlas will complete its return trajectory through our solar system, which involves it rendezvousing with all major planets to communicate with the civilization living there. There's no planets, it's all water. This is a flat plane. I don't care. Look, the point is, this story is unfolding. Whatever you believe is real, it's unfolding, and that's fascinating. And I think I do recommend Michael Sala's channel, SALLA. I'll try and link to that video below, because it will go into my Telegram channel. And by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for being here. I really appreciate all you amazing subscribers, especially the ones that joined since that lovely tarot card reader, Isabella, recommended me. I really appreciate all of that. Thank you, Isabella. It's yeah, I can't always post here. I got blocked, and then a lot of the videos that I make, I know they're going to block me, and I've got one strike left before they take the whole channel down. So I have to talk in code, or just be careful, right? But if you are habitually on YouTube and you want to watch my stuff, please, you can always go to theMarkAttwoodShow.com, which is where a lot of my back catalogue is, all of it actually. Or you can go to Rumble. I've got a channel there. You can go to x.com/MarkAttwood. That's I'm there most of the day. Where else am I? Bitchute. I'm on Bitchute, although that's kind of a waste of time. But that's where I can put things like YouTube. Can't put that on here. But anyway, I'm going to be joined by somebody new today, somebody quite amazing, who's based in Melbourne, Australia, and has a lot of I want to talk to her about Australia. It's been a while since I've specifically spoken about Australia, so I'm very interested to see what's going on there with our Antipodean colleagues. I love that word, Antipodean. If you've never heard that word, go and look it up. It's a great word. Not just checking out what's going on there, but also this woman is quite extraordinary. She I think she had triplets at the age of 46. That's pretty amazing, right? And also she helps people cope with the stress, especially during the process that we're all going through, which all started, well, it's been going on for quite a long time. We'll have a chat with her anyway. Please welcome Georgia Foster. Hi, Georgia.
Hello, thank you for having me. Hi, everyone.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So you're in Melbourne. You had 3 kids at 46 years old, which is extraordinary in and of itself. We'll come to that in a minute. But also you're awake in Australia. That's a feat.
Well, as one may know, Melbourne had the longest lockdown in history of everybody. So for me and my partner, and thank God my mum and my sister, we had each other, but it was a really, really, really tough time. It was tough for everybody, but I think that the issue for us was, and we're still, one of the reasons why, we really wanted to have a chat today was the fact that, for a lot of people, they're struggling, they're living double lives. And I feel that a lot with my life in Melbourne. I went to an Awake conference on the Gold Coast a couple of weeks ago with one of my very dear friends, my mother and my sister. And half the speakers, their visas were banned at the last minute. The big casino in, won't mention names, cancelled the venue 3 days before. It was quite an extraordinary experience. And there were some big players that were coming to speak. So, but you know what is really amazing is when you go to into these situations, you realize there are so many of us, more than you think there are. And even in this environment, at school with my boys, I find some people are quite extraordinary in terms of look, you just have to bite your tongue the whole time. And I find that quite stressful sometimes. And that's why you have to have your tribe. And so living a double life sometimes is challenging, especially, I tell this funny story in the middle of one of the long lockdowns. We're in the big supermarket with my 3 boys. I was allowed to go with my children. And they've been desperate for a pet. And there are these 3.
Oh, yeah, I get that all the time.
Yeah.
I get nagged for more pets all the time.
Yeah. Oh, no. Well, we did just cave in and get a puppy dog last week, but.
Oh, no, you're screwed. You're screwed.
So there was this sign of these 3 tabby kittens together, and the sign said, kittens are unvaccinated. And my boy said,
no, don't use that word. Remember, this is going on YouTube. I've got to make a note of the time so that I can bleep that out. Where are we? We're about 13 minutes.
Sorry. There was a sign. Do you want me to stop?
Keep going.
Sorry. I got a bit excited because my son said to me, "Mummy, look at that. All those 3 kittens are not." And I went, and I was laughing because they kind of associated that meant that these cats were really healthy and we could get them and they were safe and everything like that. So I think that living that life from there on, you have to, what, I really love what you say so much. You have to keep your faith. You have to hang around with people. And it was really interesting at the conference. There was one There's one woman who spoke there who was the most dangerous woman in South Australia.
Hang on. Slow down a sec. So this conference got cancelled at the casino it was originally supposed to be in, but they reorganized it.
They moved the venue.
Because this just happened in Ireland with a thing called Misa Era, and it's spectacular. It's the same group of people that they call up the venues and they say, you're going to be associated with a load of fascists and we're going to do a campaign against you. And they've done it to me loads of times. This is why the event I'm running in 4 or 5 weeks is at a secret location on private land. They can't do anything about it. And if they did, they'd get in trouble with the police. And it spectacularly backfired on them in this country because people got really cross and it got loads more publicity than they ever would have done. And they had to hire more space, a new marquee, and hundreds more people are going. What happened in the Australian in your case?
Well, people got scared, so they lost a lot of participants. People were worried that something was going to happen, and then they talked about the security. And I mean, we went. I was a little bit nervous, to be fair, because there had been some local press saying this was a
far right, blah blah
conspiracy
blah
kind of situation. So I was a little bit nervous once more because my mum, who's 87,
well done, George's mum. That's mighty age.
She is the most extraordinary woman, and so is my sister. I mean, we've all been such beautiful, our connection with each other and our rants, and then we have our tribe, as I said, that come here on a Friday night. And but I think the thing for me is what going to the conference more than anything else was, we've had a lot of bad weather and things that have been going on. And, a lot of people who, we just have these in jokes the whole time, but sometimes it's really quite uncomfortable because you get the giggles around people who don't get the joke. So I love the fact that having this conversation with you and people in my cohort who I can just be myself and I can just say exactly what I say, whether it's about aliens or whether it's about UFOs or it's about, whatever, whether the earth is round or whatever. It's just the fact that nobody thinks you're going crazy, that there's something wrong with you. And that's really important for me and for my children as well. Really important.
Well, yeah, my 18-year-old daughter's always saying it's very lonely for her because when she talks about this stuff, because she's totally awake, she feels like she's the only one. And that's really hard for teenagers, especially. Me, I'm used to it. I've been at it for decades and been ostracized and cut off and kicked out of parties and defriended by my own brother on Facebook. I mean, the list is endless, but I'm hardened to it. But this is why I'm doing this event, because I'm like, there's spiritual reasons for doing these things. And often when something gets put on and closed down, and there's a positive, which there has been with this one in Ireland, it's interesting. I'd be interested to know who were the people that were banned got their visas stopped at the last minute. Who were they, first of all?
I can't remember the names now. One was do you know Jamie McIntyre? His one of his peeps. There was Steve Kirsch was a lad in. He was there. A lot of local people that you don't know were there, who were very outspoken. Some politicians who have been very vocal about certain situations. And also, once again, this particular woman who was known as the most dangerous woman in South Australia because of her decisions. And she was put into solitary confinement for 2 weeks.
Whoa.
And the South Australian government, after 18 minutes, they harassed her, they stalked her, they did terrible things to her car. I mean, it was quite horrific. This young, beautiful girl who had decided not to. So she was telling her story. I'm like, I hadn't heard that one before. And that was really interesting because she was now saying that the South Australian police force, I should say, finally admitted that she was actually put into jail illegally, unconstitutionally. But because she represented herself, because no lawyer would take her on, and then she was told that the lawyers will not allow her to win, she represented herself and she got $525, right? And you know, she said, do you know any lawyers who would represent me now to go back? Because she now is open to suing the South Australian government. But everyone's too scared to take on the case.
Guys, if you're watching this and you're looking to lawyers to help you out, forget it. They're all in the same club. I know from personal experience over many decades, they're all in the same club. But I do know a way of hurting them. If anybody might do a class about that. Yeah, I've been screwed by lawyers so many times, and I know exactly how to. I'll just give you a clue. Reputation. If you can hurt their reputation, you've got them. If there are any lawyers messing with you illegally. Yeah, I mean, that's a common. I mean, she sounds really interesting. Do you know her name?
Yeah, I can send you her details. Yeah, she was interesting. She was talking about her. She's from Ukraine. Her mother Ukrainian. She's Australian born. And her mother, she lost her boyfriend, she lost her friend, she lost everything. She now doesn't live in South Australia because of the trauma of it. She lives in another state. And very much, you know, like you, right, just trying to get the message out there. And but she wants to write her book, but obviously it would have to be self-published. But
no, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't, because
you reckon?
You obviously don't watch my show that often.
I try as much as I can with 3 children running a business.
Hey, I'm only joking. It's just my yeah. So so me and Abby Wynn set up 104 Publishing last year, and we are in. We've published these 2 books so far, but we've got quite a few in the works, and maybe pointed towards me. That sounds like an interesting story.
Yeah, no, I will, definitely. Absolutely. Amazing story. And I think the thing is with the speakers, because a lot of it was relevant to Australia, of course, and it really is about the political system. Obviously, there's a bit about Tartaria, which I find absolutely fascinating. And, you know, a lot of very interesting people were present. But I think the bottom line is, it was so funny, one of the policemen from Western Australia, who was one of the first people from Port Helen, he did make international news. He spoke about the fact that there was a correlation between people dying and certain things. And he was saying that I said, you know, my sister said to him, can you come to Victoria? Because, you know, that's where Dan the man was, right? And he goes, no, it's way too corrupt for me. No, way too corrupt, you know.
Whoa.
So, you know, that's the point, isn't it? It's just like we live in we live in a beautiful, beautiful state, but it's never got back. It's just, I know nobody's ever got back, but, you know, everything is just like the UK. I mean, I lived in London for 23 years and I watch what goes on there because I've got a big passion for it, you know, and it gave me my career, but I just find it extraordinary, you know, between all the things about the taxes, the cost of living and everything like that. And you just think it's really hard. You just have to surrender to the whole thing and just, as you said, bite your tongue and keep yourself a bit more protected, you know.
Because there's a massive economic problem in Australia at the moment, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't really understand how big this was until, and this is a little admission, guys, because I got a little bit addicted to Love It or List It Australia. Which is it's a real estate program, and it's 2 English guys that present it. And are you going to love it or are you going to list it?
Oh, I see.
That is such a good impression. You have no idea. And I couldn't believe the prices of houses in Australia. I know Australian dollars are double everywhere else, but I was like, oh, 6 million. Yeah, that's a really good deal. I was like, what the fuck? And these programs that I was watching were from 7 or 8 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, the Australians have been sleepwalking into, because if anything drops now, they're going to be saddled with these gigantic mortgages. And that's what's happening now, isn't it?
Yeah. In fact, I was watching an interesting video about somebody, my father sent it to me, who's kind of on the border, you know, he's in both camps. But he is very interested in finance. And he was just saying to me, you need to watch this, Georgia, you need to watch this. And it's basically saying by year 2040, we will have a population will almost doubled in 50 years versus the first bit when we turned up. And what's really interesting about they're saying is because properties is extraordinary, and they're saying we will ultimately have to live in apartments because the actual cost of buying a house with land in Australia will be way beyond anybody can afford it. Will be the elite who'll be able to afford it.
It's
And,
like,
and that's
not going to happen, by the way. You guys watching this, that's the kind of thing that has been pumped out everywhere to make people look at it, in my opinion. But yeah.
Well, it's interesting because statistically, the immigrants who are coming in are used to living in that environment. So I think that's more generally, as in Aussies are like the Brits, right? They want their backyard, they want their land, but a lot of people aren't acclimatized to it. So I think that's quite socially acceptable, I guess, emotionally acceptable. And it's not about who's coming in, who's not coming in. It's more the fact that Australians are, I mean, very much. I feel that Aussiness is kind of gone. I mean, we get into trouble for saying things. We've got speech issues here going on big time.
I mean, I was watching one of my favorite Australians, not anymore, was Paul Hogan, and if you guys don't know who he is, Crocodile Dundee. That's not a knife. This is a knife, right? That Paul Hogan, who made it huge in Hollywood with that film and the sequels. And he was interviewed on Australian TV. I think he's about 120 now, and he was going, "Hey, yeah, we cut some things out of the original film because it wasn't." And I was like, "Oh, not you as well, Paul." I mean, he's part of the problem, right? And it's just really disappointing. I know we're all disappointed in all celebrities, but that Aussiness is my favorite thing about Australia. I mean, there's a reason I've not been to Australia. It's got 8 legs.
No.
That's the reason why I don't want to go. But
we'll look after you. We'll show the town.
Yeah, but have you got spider repellent? That's the thing. But that thing about culture, it's the same with the UK. It's happening in Ireland, and it's a deliberate thing. We know this, right? But but I'm firmly of the belief that it's bouncing back. I mean, if you look at America first, what's happened in America is that they went through hell, and then they've had to dig deep to refine their identity and refine the truth about things that they were sleepwalking into, like LGBT policies and DEI nonsense and all of that stuff. And that's the bounce back that's happening. Are you seeing any bounce back in Australia?
Unfortunately not. We
What?
had not. I mean, there's been quite a few protests of recent times, but I think underpinning that is to stop that. Like one went over at Sydney Harbour Bridge. It's really interesting. One of the things that I really shocked me was when I went to pretty much every single protest. We weren't allowed into toilets in cafes. We weren't allowed to go anywhere. So we had to find public services. And it's a long time to go to a protest, right? But this one particular protest, and there was so many of them. Somebody kindly, who had a lot of money, paid to hire a helicopter to do an aerial footage of how many people were in the streets. There was 1.8 million people there. And a particular TV show filmed that there was 5,000 there. And I was just so shocked. And all the aerial footage and all the people in our space were filming it and saying that's a lie and everything. And I think this is the problem, is that they shut it all down. It's if you're not physically there, and obviously you can watch it from your home when you share particular channels, but it hasn't changed. In fact, I think a lot of people, not in our corner, but generally people say, well, it's done now, just move on. Oh. But we haven't even started. And I think that's the biggest issue we've got in Australia is that we have the platform to speak is very difficult, very, very difficult.
Well, this is why the blackpilling is happening and people are losing faith. I see that every day on social media. And it's like, I have to look myself in the mirror every day and go, right, am I doing the right thing? Am I talking about, and I keep coming back to the same thing. They are very, very good at the war of attrition, and life living life, paying your bills, feeding your kids, trying to enjoy yourself takes up a huge amount of time and energy. And they know this, and they know that if they can keep fighting with the propaganda, you know, eventually, this is the sad part of this story. But it's also like, for me, it's like doing an assault course. I mean, I was in the military years ago, and I loved assault courses. And at the end of it, I'd be going, right, I could do that again. Let's do it again. And everybody else would be knackered, and I'd be like, I want to do it again. You know, because it gets a point, and it's depicted in movies. You know, somebody can't climb a certain wall or can't climb a rope, and then they just give up. And for me, this is an endurance test as much as it is anything else. And it's whittling people down more and more and more and more, which ultimately I think is the spiritual test that we're in. Sorry to interrupt the show, but I'm here in my car on a beautiful sunny day in lovely Ireland, and I just wanted to say to regular viewers of my show, you'll know that over the last 5 years I've tested probably over 1,000 different health products and modalities to try to get us through the but also to help us enhance our longevity towards health sovereignty. Now, out of all the things that I've tested, there are a number of things that I use on a daily basis. And for the last 3 years, you will never see me without one of these on the back of my neck. I can't actually, if you can see it there. It's on the back of my neck. This is a Lifewave X39 patch. Well, this is actually not a patch. This is the sleeve that it comes in. This is an X39 patch, okay? This thing, you just stick on the back of your neck. And what it does is it reflects the light coming from inside your body back inside your body. So it reflects the light coming out of you back into you, but at a frequency that achieves a certain thing. They have a large range of patches that do different things, from helping you sleep better to helping you recover from pain or from exercise pain. This one in particular, the X39, is my standard thing that I wear every day. And the reason for that is because this stimulates the production inside your body of copper peptides. And copper peptides in turn stimulate stem cells. Now, I am 56 this year, and I've got more energy than my teenage kids who I'm on the way to pick up. Why is that? Well, structured clean water is part of that. A mainly carnivore diet is part of that. I do have access to things like hyperbaric oxygen and red light therapy at our healing center at live5dhealth.com. But actually, I don't use them very often because I'm a workaholic. But these patches have not left my neck since I first discovered them in 2022. And I am convinced that my eyesight is better, my teeth are stronger, my arthritis has disappeared, my hair is thicker and longer. Look, there's a ponytail here. Sex drive is better. So many things are better, and I'm convinced it's because of these. If you're not convinced by me, go to theMarkAttwoodShow.com and search under Lifewave or stem cells. You'll see that I've done numerous interviews with numerous people giving their testimonies about Lifewave patches from all over the world. So go and have a look at those if you're not convinced. I'm going to put some QR codes on the screen. One is for the Lifewave patches themselves, which you can go and get online immediately. They are not the cheapest thing in the world. I do think they're actually less than a cup of coffee a day if you wore one a day. But and I understand that doesn't stretch everybody's budget, but they also represent an amazing sovereign business opportunity. You can get paid for recommending these. If you try the patches and you sign up to the other QR code, which is the business opportunity page, that will put you in touch with Cheryl. Cheryl works with me in the States, and she will talk you through the process and show you how to do it. All you've got to do is share a link and give your testimony. This is the way we bypass Google, we bypass press, national TV, mainstream media to grow this business, which is currently $1 billion business. It has grown leaps and bounds since 2020 because of the need of people like us who are awake, who want to sustain themselves and get through this time period so that we can get through to ascension in one piece. That's what it's all about. Freeze the video if you need to get onto the QR codes. Go to those links now. That's all for now. I hope you enjoy this message and you enjoy Lifewave, and I'll see you soon. Enjoy the show. Back to me in the studio.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's really hard. Like one of my very dear friends, her and a partner, he's got permanent damage, and it's rocked their lives in such traumatic ways. And little things like they've had to move from the area because all of in our state there's just another tax they've added on, which is land tax, and so all the rents have gone up in Victoria, and people can't afford to live in the area that they were living in. So it's just the little trickle here, there, and all of a sudden you just think, oh my God, this is how do we get to this food bill or electricity or gas? And things like all new homes in Victoria are not allowed to have gas anymore, right? They're all got to be electric. And so, people that in our corner are saying, well, I can't buy a new house. I've got to buy an old house because I want gas shed. I want to be able to cook with my gas, And it's these little moments that you see more and more, just keeping people. I do think there is sometimes a thinking, are we getting anywhere? Are we really getting anywhere?
Oh, yes, we are. Yes, we are.
A lot of people ask that sometimes. And my partner says to me, you've been watching Telegram too much, Georgia, stop it. And I'm like, I know, no, because sometimes you can get hooked into those things.
Yes. Yeah.
And so now I have a rule. I only I watch you. I think you're fabulous.
Thank you.
I've shared you with all my friends, and we have such a laugh. We love.
Hello, Georgia's friends. How you doing? Get me to Australia. Get me to Australia. Get me to Australia in an anti-spider suit. I'm in.
Yes.
I don't care about the visa. I'll row.
Well, just make sure you get your visa done.
No. I'll sneak in. It's a fucking massive coastline. How can they can't police it all?
That's a great idea.
Yeah, why not? That'd be fun. That'd be a good movie.
Can you ask one of your UFOs to fly you in?
Breaking into Australia under the rabbit-proof fence. That'd be fun.
Ooh. No talking.
I'd love to do that, but
no talking. And I think that I agree with you. It's just, and that is once again, I think that we have a lot more stresses and anxieties and fears than the other people do. I really believe that. And it's not that, because you can't always be optimistic, of course. Then you have your little down moments. You think,
Georgia, I know. That's why I talked about energy at the top of the show, because the more I've had this conversation's come up a lot in the last 6 months for me, and it kind of goes back to my childhood, where I remember being, I don't know, 16, and one of my best friends when I was young was there on the street, and he had a motorbike, and he was going to the pub every night, and he had girlfriends, and I was looking at him get skint, going into further education, and I looked at him, and I remember saying to myself, oh, it must be amazing to be thick, because he's got such a simple life, and I'm questioning everything. This is when I was 16, and it's never changed, ever was it thus. And I think that awake people have always suffered from this, because we are not like the rest of them. And it is a lot more. So I think that's why I talked about my blood pressure and stuff like that. And you're a clinical hypnotherapist, aren't you?
Correct. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so presumably you've been helping people a lot with coping with the stress of, and what you're saying is, what you're seeing as a clinical hypnotherapist is that you're seeing people suffering with the stress of this situation, because it is harder when you know what's going on. It is, you've got to contain thoughts in your head, like 22,000 children go missing every single day. People still don't believe that, or have done historically. At the same time as, let's go to the cinema, let's go out for a burger, let's go for a walk on the beach. It is really quite difficult, because as you said earlier on, you're living a double life. My take on that is that's exciting as well, because like Superman and Spider-Man, we have two spiders again. We have two we have two identities in a way, and it's like having, my identity is not secret in any way, shape or form, but there is still an element of, if I sit down to have dinner with my brother, which I haven't done for a while, but I can only really talk about football for an hour, because he doesn't want to listen to anything else, and I have to go and I don't watch football, so I have to go and look it up so I can talk to him. So you have all these little strategies to be able to deal with people that you love. Because, and the other thing is, I love everybody, right? So even the people that try to close us down, if you're watching this, you are welcome to our event and welcome to our healing center. They won't come because they're demonic cowards. But the point is that you've still got to walk and talk amongst people that are nowhere near where you are, and that involves coping mechanisms, right?
Yeah, I think so. I specialize in people who want to drink less alcohol, people who intuitively want to eat better.
Could you narrow it down a bit, because that's everybody, isn't it?
Well, you see, I know there are a lot of people out there who do the sober bit. I like to drink, and I think when I was in London, I had 2 clinics in London, one in the business district for 23 years, and one at my home in West London. And there were people who would come to see me about stress and anxiety and were using alcohol. So that's really where it came from. And being a drinker, I get it. And then I was very fortunate that a couple of journalists who were my clients decided to write about me and their experiences.
I was going to mention journalism, because I learned to drink in the RAF, massive drinking culture.
Yeah.
You'd be quite surprised to know, dear listener, that a lot of pilots are pissed. And secondly, journalists. I was a journalist in London, and the whole culture was drinking.
Massive.
I mean, the main journalists would drift into the Daily Telegraph offices at about 11 o'clock. They'd do about an hour and a half tippy tappy, and then it'd all go to the bar, and it'd all be hammered, and then if you hung out with them, I remember being in the back of a cab at 7 o'clock in the evening, going to Ronnie Scott's with a guy who was completely pie-eyed, and I didn't get home till 2, and I had to be up at 4 to get to work the next day. And it's like, how it's cultural. And what I learned about sorry to interrupt you about the journalists and telling this story, but what I learned about journalists was that most of them were being paid so much money they couldn't not be a journalist. This is like, I made a video about this 4 or 5 years ago when I called out fake news, because this experience led to me making a comedy show on ITV in the UK and on Paramount Comedy Channel about a journalist and I played this journalist who basically killed somebody and blackmailed somebody just to get coverage for his TV show. And it was all fake news, but this is back in 1996. And, the alcohol was a huge part of it. And, it took me a long time to understand that, because when the thing happened 5 years ago, I was in the garden, and the first thing I did was open a bottle of wine, and I didn't stop, because it was very bloody stressful. And that was my coping mechanism. So I'm just butting in there. You carry on. The journalist that wanted to.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I had a couple of journalists who wrote about my book and then my programs, because obviously I really, I mean, there's a couple of things I want to kind of point out here. I have this great psychology I'm trained in. It really is that inner critic voice, that boom, doom, gloom. And when we drink alcohol, it goes away. So a lot of people in our camp, I know for a fact, and even those who aren't, through that time, were excessively drinking, because
me included.
Yeah, and very few alcohol-free days were in our house as well. So it was very, very over the top. And because when you know that something's not right, and when you know when's it's going to finish, when's it going to end, and you kind of, so I think that the people in our environment were actually more challenged than those who weren't. Because
I'd agree with that.
And it really really disturbed me how many people were emailing me and saying, George, I don't want to do this, and I'm really worried about this, and so a lot of my response was I would test the water and see how it would go. Like, are they on that side or are they on this side? But bottom line is that, drinking is a great way to escape. And I'm saying, look, happy for people to drink. Obviously, I believe in that. Had an American client years ago who said the only difference between New York City and London is that in New York there's a pharmacy on every corner, and in London there's a pub. And it's
in London there's a pub and a pharmacy.
Yeah, true.
No, well, that's really interesting. I'm going to just pause on that one, because that's another thing that I've noticed, right? Especially living in the heaviest drinking country in the world, which is Ireland, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in any disparaging way whatsoever. But this town, for example, 20 years ago had 30 plus pubs. And it's a small town. Now it's got about 5. And I've watched this with interest. So maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I'd have said, oh, it's a real shame because the culture's being destroyed. Because they brought in lots of rules that were really, really bad for, say, local farmers that would finish, in the old men living on their own who would finish their day and they drive a mile down a country lane to a pub, have a couple of pints and then drive home. And then they have a chat with their mates, they'd have the crack. And that was really good for mental health on one hand. And then they made it completely illegal to even, and they cracked down on that and said, if you have one drink, we're going to arrest you. And this has worked extremely well. And they brought in a lot of totalitarian stuff like that. But on the other hand, alcohol is named after the demon Al Ghul, right? And Al Ghul's job as a demon is to crack into your auric field, take you over, make you do stupid things to create guilt and shame and kill you younger. And that's his job. And what's happened is that the pubs have died. And I'm wondering, I know that home drinking's got bigger as well because supermarkets are far cheaper than getting a pint of Guinness, for example. But at the same time, I've known a lot of people that used to be very heavy drinkers who've now completely stopped. And I'm interested. It's like most of the things that we're going through in the spiritual war. There's 2 ways of looking at it. On the one hand, here in particular, the culture's being eroded in one way. In another way, it's like showing that there's an enhancement in consciousness going on, and that's reflecting and manifesting on the outside with less pubs. It depends on how you look at it.
Well, I think the old demographic, my audience are definitely 45, 55, 65 plus, and because they're in the old school, they're in the old system. And what is really interesting, I've noticed with protests and people in the room on the Gold Coast a couple of weeks ago, is they're all in that ilk, right? Yeah. So the younger ones, I'm not saying that the younger ones aren't awake. That's not true. But I do think that people are saying, hang on a minute, something's really, really not right here, and really do have that strong sixth sense about it. It's like my guy at the local bank who, he's from Poland. He goes, I smelled a rat from the moment. He said, I grew up with this, right? I know what this is all about. Kind of.
That's why there's a line in one of my poems about Ireland, and I use the line from Sligo to Estonia because the Eastern Europeans in this country have been amazing throughout the last 5 years because they've seen it before. They recognize communism when they see it. And they've also been really useful in this country because they haven't been, they've got skills, right? Most, and this is a generalization, but I having this conversation yesterday with a local man, and I said the thing is with the Polish, for example, is that they all know how to fix and mend things. They know how to do mechanics. They know how to kill a chicken, and they know communism when they see it. And that's been actually a really powerful part of immigration in a country like this. Again, with the immigration, you've got this double-edged sword. You've got incredible people coming. I mean, Australia is built on immigration, and you've got this, amazing side to that. But then you've got the illegal immigration that comes, and if you see the difference, you're a racist. If you don't, then it's extraordinary, isn't it?
And I think that's right. In terms of going about our everyday life is in fact what they were talking about. When I was a little girl, I went to a girls' school, and it was a very religious school. And I'm not religious by any stretch of imagination, but anyway, so went to this school, and we would have this Christian education, I don't know how many times a week. And the teacher said to me, when the Christians were being slaughtered, they had this little symbol, and they would draw a fish in the sand. I'm sure you probably heard the story. And I always thought that was really, really interesting. I just never, ever forgot it, ever. And I used to think that's really, wonder when you'd ever have to do that. And then when we were at the conference the other day, one of the main speakers was saying, what we need to do is find a way that we know each other in the street, And I remember that fish sign and thinking, this is the thing about it, you know, when do you know you're with your tribe in the middle of the street or something? Then I thought, well, if somebody put a little, not a fish mark or something on there, then it would become, you could just imagine what would happen. But I think sometimes it would be really lovely to know that you're in company rather than having to guess the conversation, see how far you can take it. And then you pull back and they look at you and say, what do you mean about that? You know, kind of thing. Because sometimes you just realize when you know someone is, and this happened the other day with a very dear friend of mine who is an old flatmate, and we haven't seen each other for 30 years. And I was in Sydney running a seminar and we caught up with each other. And I said to her, we were having a general conversation and she said to me, about something. I said, you know, well, actually, I have very strong views about those sorts of things. And she turned around and she just looked at me and I looked at her and I just started to cry. And she said, I've got goosebumps. So she pulled up her skirt. She had goosebumps all down her leg. And her husband came in and they said, you're like us. And like, this is 30 years I haven't seen her. And we were crying in the kitchen. And I'm like, oh my God. And her husband's a doctor, right? And it's just like, and it's like, no. We just, no. And then bang, 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 all afternoon. I said, I don't want to go. I want to stay here. And I think that's the thing about it. There's this beautiful love that we have for each other. Like, it doesn't matter where you come from, is that when you're in that space with with people who you can say whatever you want to say. And like with my friends, you know, my friend's husband saying, oh, I don't really believe that, but you don't have a problem saying it. Do you know what I mean? Like, people don't think you're a nutter. And that's what I love about being in this community. And the more people I meet, it just makes me realize that there are so many more of us, as I said before, than we think that there are, you know, which is good news.
And it's a growing number as well. But specifically about how you help people with drinking, is that your main thing?
Well, I'm known as the alcohol reduction expert, yes. So I have an online program and I have 6-week courses people can do privately with me. Well, not private, but in a group format, confidentially. I do also specialize in people who have emotional eating issues. But for those who don't have food or alcohol issues, there's a really great program called the Emotional Resilience Training, which is very, very good at helping people with anxieties. And it's really that when you get into that moment where the inner critic gets the better of you and you think, you just get that hopelessness. That program is for people, not just for people in our corner, of course, but people who just feel they've got to get out of their own space. They're just, you know, and I think a lot of people for the last 5 years have really struggled with mental health more than I've ever experienced before. And I'm a big, passionate person to, you know, I'm really like, you know, we have so much to deal with, but how we perceive it can make a massive difference. And hypnosis is fantastic for that, because hypnosis can bypass. I'm very much about neuroplasticity. I'm not about the past. Some people are, but I'm very much more progressive rather than regressive. Like, you've done that. Why do you don't even need to know why, right? Don't you just want to move on? So by the time people, you know, buy my programs, they're just like, I just want to feel good about myself. Don't want to be perfect, you know, and that's not about being perfect, but being more intuitive, being more naturally charismatic, so that you're not drinking to deal with your social anxiety. And a lot of the drinking is done like chopping the vegetables, and you think, where did that half bottle of wine go? Where did those 4 beers go? A lot of it's very automated. So I think alcohol in particular is given a big, you know, it's taboo, and, you know, if you drink too much, you have to quit. Well, I've not seen that. Some people, of course, that's their journey, but so many people are not in that space, and they don't belong on a park bench, and they don't belong in a group meeting. They just have started to use alcohol as the way to alleviate stress and anxiety. You know, a lot of people bored and loneliness as well. I mean, COVID triggered a lot of loneliness, big time, for a lot of people.
Yeah. No shit. And I didn't realize, you know, until I went to America, I didn't really understand the power of doing a podcast, you know, until people came up to me and said, oh, thank you, you got me through.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I had no idea. you know, so you're on somebody's TV when they're in the middle of the biggest psychological operation in history, and you're trying to do stupid jokes in the middle of it all, and that helps people. And that's why I carry on, because I keep getting messages every day. Please carry on. These little chats do me so much good, and that counterbalances all the negative shit I get from people. And you know, it's extraordinary the depth of loneliness that people have felt during this time. Hence the live event we're doing in Ireland. Come along. I'll put the link below if you can, because these things can have such a drastically huge. This is also the same with the healings. The Live 5D Health people. I didn't realize how important it would be for people. Have said to me, it's so amazing to come in here and just, you know, speak like you just said, just speak freely.
Yeah.
You know, which is extraordinary.
It's such a blessing.
Which is also nuts, because, you know, why do I think I was in the car yesterday going, we live in a world where, you know, people wave at me, hi, how's it going, Mark? And inside they're thinking, he's a fucking nutter. On the surface, they're really friendly. But you just, you know, you need to have deep conversations. You need to have emotional connections. You need to find your tribe. I mean, I hate the word fam, this word that's come up. I fucking hate it, you know. And I see other people within this, hey fam, and I'm like, no, don't do that. Please don't do that.
I haven't heard that one.
No, have you not?
No.
No, they forced it. It's a Tavistock Institute word that they forced through programming, like programs like Doctor Who and stuff. They just started introducing that word, and it's like words like grand rising. I just can't bring myself to say it. I know good morning means, you know, have a happy death or whatever, but I think it's all about the intentions. And you know, like I said about the WhatsApp, I mean, people, oh, you're not on WhatsApp, they're spying on you anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you are protected. There was a wonderful thing I was watching the other day about a story about David, as in David and Goliath. And David, although he was getting hassled by the king in the Bible, I've not actually read this part of the Bible for a long time, but he was constantly getting grief. And David was like, oh, can I have a break now? I'm knackered, right? And the parable, the point of the story is that he was protected all the time. You know, the king was harassing him. I mean, even before we started recording, you said that every time you tried to email me, something would happen, some blockage. And I said to you, all they can do is interfere. They can wear you out, but you know, that's all making you stronger, in my opinion. But even David in the Bible was like, and somebody will be there going, no, you've misquoted the Bible, Mark, and you need to just chill out, you guys. Just the point of the story is that even though David was fully protected, nothing terrible would happen to him. It was still exhausting for him to stand up against this opposition, and it is exhausting, and you do need to take a break, and you do need, if you need help, that's why I interview and talk to people like Georgia, because she's there to help you with these issues if you need that help, and she's wide awake, and that's wonderful, you know. So yeah, you're doing great work. You're doing great work.
Thank you. And Snap, you too.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about one question I've got for you. I've got a lot of questions for you, but one of them is about the music, because obviously they suppressed the hertz of the music. And, you know, I think a lot of people need to kind of go back to the Mozarts, and we need to go back to the old, you know, because everything on your phone obviously has got that hertz on it. So we need to try and get back to the music, get the records going, and get that vibrational thing happening again, because I think that's part of the problem as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I posted last night at about 11 o'clock on Telegram. I posted a 3-hour Tartarian bell video.
Yeah,
because they hate the bells, right? That's why I've got this. You know, and that's how they repelled the demons. And the demons, you know, the Draco, you know, the shapeshifters, they can't hold their shape in the vibration of bells. I totally agree with that, because I'm constantly looking for, you know, you keep reaching, oh, I'd love to watch a movie tonight. Oh no, he's in it, she's in it. I know what they're, I can't watch that. And then you're like, oh, I want to put some old music. Oh no, this is all the wrong frequency. It's like,
I completely agree with you.
I want to send an emoji, but I know that all those emojis are demonic. You know, it's just endless, but we are getting stronger.
We are. We are, and I think that we need to remember that. We need to remember in the darkest time to think, you know what, it's just a little moment. You've got to just, get some funny videos out of your children or funny stories, or call a funny friend, or do something just to get you out of that space,
Yeah.
and watch one of your shows, because you are, what I think is lovely is you're not that boom, doom, gloom. And it's just, we can't, I know we have to have a little bit of it, but we need to then say, right, that's it, done. That's it. Let's move on.
Well, somebody commented the other day, said, "Oh, you're not." They emailed me saying, "I feel like you're just talking about doom and gloom," and I was like, "What?" Everything
No.
I'm saying, look, yes, there's all this negative shit going on, but we're stronger than that. And how are we gonna get through it? That's really, I think, what I'm about. And you got a choice. You can either go through it, oh, this is really hard, or you could go, fuck it, I don't care, let's just do it, and stop being afraid of what's going to happen. Because those people that you said earlier got afraid because of the press of going to this thing because it was conspiracy or it was whatever. What are you afraid of? Being called names? Being arrested? Who cares? You're an eternal spirit. And I think that's the key. If you understand that you're an eternal spirit, and if you're watching this show, you've probably been here loads of times anyway. This time that God's given us is all about remembering who we are and then finding our strength and power. And that's exactly what's happening. It's just a slow process in that perception of 3D time. And if I'm wrong, and I keep saying the same thing, if I'm wrong, we're all dead anyway, so who gives a shit?
Well, I always said, when my mum used to say to me, I said, where do we go when we die? And she'd say heaven. And I go, but heaven must be really squashy. Like, we can't have that many people in heaven. We've got to go somewhere else. So I think I always felt that we are eternal, because whether we come back here or whether we go somewhere else, I don't know. But I do think that, there are a lot of questions. And I always say, when I get to the pearly gates, I've got a lot of things I want to ask. But I think that we can see some of them now. I definitely feel we can feel them now. And I do think that, we have an opportunity, I agree, to expand out of the fear and really have that faith. And I do feel very strongly about that. I think, look, maybe I've always been a self-questioning person. And I think people generally who are self-employed are a little bit more, it may be courageous in certain ways of thinking, because you have to. But I also think I've got 3 boys, and I want them to grow up. I mean, my partner was going on about 9/11 when I was like, what? Oh, don't be ridiculous. Like, he's been going on about for years right now.
I like him already.
Yeah, no, he was all over it. And he is an incredible soul. He's a Geordie. And
Way, man. I'm doing this for him.
On the tune.
Hang on, I'm going to do this for him. How do we in shite?
You'll love that. But we've got 3 sons, and we've got a responsibility, I believe, to show them that what you see isn't necessarily real or true. And so, there are a few kids at the school whose parents are in our corner, and when we get together, we have a proper laugh, absolute proper laugh about life and things. But our kids, it's really interesting. The only thing I don't like about this whole situation is that they sometimes have to lie. And I don't like them being lying, but they have no choice because
I call it, my son called it yesterday, white lies. And I thought that was interesting. It's strategic lying.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult for the kids if they're awake and they've got awake parents. I mean, it's been a real, holding my 5 together has been one of the biggest challenges. Well, the biggest challenge of my life. And they're doing well, thank God. But my God, it's what a struggle, because they do have to tell fibs to survive within, if they're partaking and in any part of the system. And on one hand, I'm saying to them, well, you got to get through and you've got to survive. On the other hand, I'm saying, be honest, be a decent person and everything. And that's when, that's when it becomes difficult. And it's the same with the drinking thing. It's like, on one hand, you've got to stay as fit and healthy and together as possible. On the other hand, you need to let off steam, and you need to do, you need to have fun. And sometimes the booze is part of that. And sometimes, you know, cannabis is part of that. I know loads of people that are doing that all day, you know, because it's the way that they're coping with it, and fair play to them. I mean, it's I've always said whatever it takes to get through this, but I think we're at a point now. Sorry, I'm going off on a subject. Get back to the kids, and then, you know, not liking telling
No,
them.
I think that's absolutely true. I mean, it was so funny. We were out with my mum, my sister, and myself and a friend. We were out for dinner. Someone we haven't seen for a long time, and she was going on about the weather and the climate change and everything. And she said to me, "You know, it's a hoof problem." I went, "Pardon? What's a hoof problem?" And she said, "It's the hoofs." I said, "What do you mean the hoofs?" And she said, "Well, the reason is the hoofs in the soil, because you do know that cattle aren't really Australian. They actually were put on a boat and they came over. I'm like, what do you mean?" She said, "It's the hoofs causing the soil, which is causing everybody with the methane, and it's a hoof problem." It was on the ABC the other night. Didn't you watch it? And I had to hold my breath. I thought, I'm going to have a glass of wine for this one. A hoof problem. I mean, really, really. But, you know, this is what we have to deal with. And you start to, to laugh. You think,
You got to laugh.
I mean, it's just so extraordinary. Right?
You got to laugh. I mean, I was in a lake with another dad and our kids about 5 years ago, and he's a teacher, and it was a hot day, and he looked up at the sun. This is a woke teacher, by the way. I didn't realize he was woke at the time until this moment. He looked up at the sun and he went, "Jesus, you can't tell me there's no such thing as global warming." I went, "What? Because it's a fucking hot day?"
Oh, God.
That's how I deal with it. I just deal with it face on. And if they come out with something like that, I just call them an idiot. I say, "You're a fucking idiot. What are you talking about?" And then they get upset, and then they engage. But to be honest, I wouldn't have gone out with dinner with him in the first place.
Well, you know, that's an example of when you have to really bite your tongue, because
I don't think you do. I mean, this is my approach. I don't bite my tongue at all.
I have to, because of, I think, certain, you know, I've got some very dear friends who are all in the medical big pharma world, and I have to be very careful.
Why?
And I love them.
Tell them that they're
You know.
fuckwits and they're murdering people. That's what I'd do.
Well,
there's people watching this now going, "Oh, this is divided, this conversation." It says, I'm half joking, because
no, but I hear. But the thing is, you have to make a decision. You have to choose to love these people, though you've always loved them, and you just have to, as I said, you have to sit there, because you know you're not going to win the argument, because the argument's such a big argument.
But this is what I do. I think I'm coming from a place of love when I tell them straight how things are.
I know, but I don't have the confidence, because I feel like because I can't say that amongst. I'm unfortunately, my circle. I've got it's a big circle of people, but there's certain people that are family friends, who still aren't aware and awake, who shunted us for Christmas, shunted us for birthday, shunted us for whatever, and think that we can all just be happy again and whatever is fine. And I will make some comments.
Good.
But people who've never dissed me were very respectful to my decision and never, ever judged me and didn't stop seeing me. Do you know what I mean? So I think they just think, well, that's George's opinion and this is my opinion. And I just keep it to that. But the people who really dug their toes in their feet and said, "No, can't see Georgia. No, God, she's dirty."
Well, to be honest, as you're talking, I'm thinking of a few people that I have done the same thing with, and I just don't mention it because it's pointless, and I can still have a social interaction. But as time's gone by, those social interactions have just got hollower and hollower and hollower, and I avoid them now because I just don't want it.
They're tiring sometimes.
It's exhausting. They take your energy as well.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It is this only a certain amount of time you can be in the company of those situations, those people, because you come away and just think, I really sometimes feel like I'm living in a madhouse.
You are. You are living in a madhouse.
I hope not.
I sat in the kitchen yesterday and I went, "Do you think we're living in hell?" And it's a very interesting question, because my first girlfriend committed suicide, and after years after we'd split up, we were still friends. And before she committed suicide, I rang her. She'd been sectioned, and I rang her and said, "What the fuck are you doing in a nut house?" And she said, and she was a theological student. She was also part of a family that had been part of a religious cult that grew up in my village. And if you're watching this in the UK, go and look up the Jesus Army documentary that's on BBC Two at the moment, or on iPlayer. Go and watch it, because the guy that set that up, he's the guy that molested my dad. I grew up in the cult in that village. And I wasn't in the cult, but I saw it grow around me. And she said to me on the phone, "This is hell, Mark." And I went, "Well, yeah," I was a bit flippant. And I said, "Well, yeah, I know it's a bit rough sometimes," but she really believed it was. And I was asking that question yesterday. I was like, is this actually hell? And what I found useful for me is that there's a lot of philosophical stuff that says that where we are on earth is like it's the lowest part of heaven and the highest part of hell. And I saw a diagram the other day, which was from Dolores Cannon's another hypnotherapist, her last lesson, from a woman that was actually there physically with her. And she showed this like an hourglass, and it was all dark down here and light up here. And Dolores said, we're in this squeeze point here, which is the eye of the needle in the Bible. And we're going through the eye of the needle. It's difficult.
I don't know which part we're in, but
it's a madhouse.
I feel like we live in the Truman Show. That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think that's a very accurate, and I'm very curious about Antarctica. It's one of my big. I follow a channel about what's over the ice wall. I'm quite obsessed with it, and I think that's something that for me, I would love to know whether that's where they all go.
Have you got that book? Yeah, I interviewed John Hamer and Andy Ross not long ago, and they've written a book about Antarctica, which is like.
I saw them. Yeah, amazing. I watched it. Amazing.
Did you get the book?
I didn't get the book.
Get it.
Yeah.
Get it. John knows a shitload, and he's weaved it into this story, which I as they were talking, I mean, all of this is like, they're all movies, and the movies that we're going to make after all this is over. Imagine a movie about the truth about the Federal Reserve and the Titanic. Imagine a movie about how the Rothschilds infiltrated Europe with their the banking system. These are the movies I want to see, and we're never going to see them at the moment, but we will see. And the stories. Antarctica. Imagine a movie about Admiral Byrd's mission to Antarctica.
I know.
What a movie that would be, and they're feeding us fucking Happy Gilmore too, the twats. It's like, come on.
The thing is about it, you just got to make sure that you don't get knocked off. That's it, no, really, in that sense,
Well, that's why I wanted to talk to you, because I said at the top of the show, and it's very easy to go through this every day. Like your husband says, don't go on Telegram all day long. It is very easy to get so embroiled in it that you forget about looking after yourself. And I've gone through waves of really looking after myself, and then not, and then waves again, and then not. My weight's gone up and down. My alcohol intake's gone up and down. This is like, this isn't. I'm lighthearted about a lot of this, but this is heavy shit. This is the heaviest shit there is. Surviving in this time is being aware of, as you said, being aware of what's going on, and surviving in this time is incredibly tough.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need help, and I guess your way of helping people helps yourself as well, doesn't it, in your terms? But just, we're gonna have to wrap up, because I've got we're running over time, but and it's been a fantastic conversation, but could you explain to the viewers how you can help them, just in a elevator pitch?
Sure. Well, if you're feeling anxious and fearful about life, in particular because of what you are experiencing in this world, is that changing your thinking about certain things will really lift your energy and your vibrational space. So the more you're in a good thought space, the higher vibration, and the higher vibration, things don't infect you so much, because it's the infecting that's the problem. So it's, the programs, whether it's drinking, or it's a six week intensive, or 7 day, or all of the programs have a hypnosis component to it and a psychology part to it, because Okay, bottom line is self-esteem is something we need to learn. We're not born with it, and life can really erode it. And I think a lot of us have lost our confidence. So we need to get back on the horse, and hypnosis is such a powerful tool to shift people's thinking really quickly without going into your past. It's saying, you know what, I'm done with this thinking. I'm done feeling this way. If you feel like that, then my programs will be really helpful for you.
Amazing. Brilliant. Thank you, Georgia. It's been lovely to spend an hour with you, and give my love to the husband and the boys and the family. Hello, Georgia's mum. You're doing great. Keep going. You're showing everybody the way. And yeah, we'll catch up again. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Are you looking for amazing retreats in Ireland?
Let us help you become the best version of you in a matter of days.
Ireland is a wonderful place to retreat from the world and find some inner peace.
It is a deeply historic and spiritual country, and nothing can inspire the soul more than the stunning west of Ireland.
We have chosen the historic town of Boyle in County Roscommon to build our state-of-the-art clinic, Live5D Health, nestled along the beautiful Boyle River.
Our centre combines a range of therapies that cannot be found under one roof anywhere else in Ireland.
These therapies need to be experienced on a daily basis over a number of days to truly feel the incredible, powerful effects.
So we have put together a fabulous package for people from across the world who are looking to truly reinvigorate their health and mental well-being. Full details of itineraries, dates and costs can be found when you join our retreats email waiting list on live5dhealth.com. Our total wellness retreats use the stunning Frybrook House, only a 2-minute walk across the bridge from our centre, as your base for a range of daily therapies in our EMF protected and energetically harmonious centre.
Our activities and therapies include a wide range of truly healthy breakfast, lunch and dinner options provided by Frybrook House and Boyle's best chefs, under our strict guidance on the provenance of ingredients and their nutritional value.
A daily morning yoga session.
Red light therapy in the most advanced red light bed in Ireland to activate the mitochondria in your cells, help weight loss, reverse aging, stimulate collagen and relax every cell.
Pulsed electromagnetic field therapy to harmonize your electromagnetic field, strengthen your cell walls, and stimulate circulation and healing.
Hyperbaric oxygen therapy or exercise with oxygen therapy to detoxify and feed your cells with this essential healing nutrient on a level you've never experienced before.
A session in our luxury sauna overlooking the Boyle River.
The world's cleanest water steam room. Our water is vigorously cleaned and harmonized with nature.
Immersive light and sound therapies, including the only Roxiva and soundbed combination in Ireland, aided by the only holographic sound system in Ireland. Has to be experienced to be believed.
Quantum healing in our Orinoco healing pod. Profound spiritual experiences await you here, especially if you are an experienced meditator, but also amazing if you are not.
Daily hydrogen and Brown's gas sessions to help your body rejuvenate itself with the fundamental building blocks of the universe.
Provision of clean, structured and mineralized hydrogen water for you to consume throughout the retreat, with the inclusion of a hamper containing our best supplements.
A final light dinner with our founders, Mark Attwood and Gary Keeley, and the Live5D team at a stunning Irish castle.
These treatments are all well-established foundations, especially if you are chronically ill
or just want to enhance your being and give your body and soul the best treat you could possibly give it.
There is a lot of information on our website about all of them, so we do encourage you to look around and do your own research on the benefits before applying to come on a retreat with us.
They are also cumulative. That is, if you experience them over multiple days, the effects are enhanced.
Of course, we're not only offering these incredible therapies on our retreats.
We want you to have a fully immersive Irish experience, as we are nestled in and amongst some of the most incredible sacred sites and landscapes on Earth.
Many know of Ireland's mystical past, being connected to Egypt, Atlantis and Lemuria.
And our centre is only a few minutes from the wild Atlantic coast,
Queen Maid's Tomb,
the mystical and powerful Carrickeel,
and the Caves of Kesh, among many other places of great interest.
We will make excursions to many of these on your visit, as well as a choice from some of these local delights.
A seaweed bath in the coastal town of Inishgrone. Built in 1912, these traditional seaweed baths are famous for their high concentration of iodine, which relieves all sorts of ailments from arthritis to rheumatism.
A seaside sauna and sea swim at Ross's Point. Our sauna is fabulous, but we will also take you to the charming and picturesque town of Ross's Point, where you will be able to swim safely in the sea, set against the spectacular backdrop of Benbulben.
A stunning canoe trip along the rivers of County Sligo. Very gentle exercise where you will see how the rivers of Ireland can be like the rivers of Africa, with the almost guaranteed inclusion of kingfishers.
A flight in a light aircraft across the township of Boyle, where you will experience the local lakes and mountains from a unique perspective.
A boat tour of Lough Key, our local lake which features multiple islands, a castle in the lake frequented by W.B. Yeats, an alleged interdimensional portal, and many tales of UFO sightings. Trips to the local organic markets and farms, a traditional Irish music evening in a thatched pub, a lunch boat tour on the mighty River Shannon. Our retreats run throughout the seasons of the year and are strictly limited in numbers.
So please fill out the form on live5dhealth.com today and get on the waiting list.